Okay, let's talk about Kona Blue. So get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, so Arrow just released the declassified files on Kona Blue, the prospective UFO retrieval program. Initially, I wasn't very excited about this. I would have been a lot more excited if it was an actual program that got funded and it was a real program, like the OGA, for example, the Office of Global Access from the CIA, one of the CIA's most recent UFO programs, at least the one that we know about. That would have been pretty exciting. But what we did get was actually surprisingly interesting. And people have been doing a deep dives into the 56 pages of Kona Blue. And there's some juicy stuff in there, guys. I haven't had time to really go through it very much because I was preparing for the Dana Sheehan interview and then doing the interview. But looking on Twitter today, I'm seeing some really good insights into Kona Blue. So let's just go through it. Matthew Manley makes the point that James Lukatsky talks about actually having a UFO, or actually that the government does have an actual UFO that they did get access to. Alien Girl is making the point that, yes, ATIP was referenced heavily in the Kona Blue files, especially toward the end. There's a whole lot about ATIP if you go down there. And I read the ATIP stuff because that was interesting. ATIP is mentioned. ATIP is a thing. It really existed and it had a budget. It was funded. There were two figures I saw thrown around for the budget for ATIP. One was 10 million, one was 12 million. Either way, it was a funded program. It wasn't all under the radar, and that sort of thing. It was an actual program that did exist and was funded. So ATIP was a thing for anybody that didn't think that. Patterns Tell Story says the top two justifications for the Kona Blue program were remote viewing and crash retrievals. And there you go. There's one of the pages, the justification for need of the program. And they were trying to get this thing off the ground, so they had to justify it. And one of those justifications, remote viewing, remote communication, and rematerialization techniques to observe, communicate, retrieve data, and transfer matter across dimensional and space-time barriers will undoubtedly be of an utmost interest, if not a top collection priority for adversarial intelligence security services. Countermeasures against such techniques would also be a collection priority. What? De and rematerialization techniques? And they're using these techniques to observe, communicate, and retrieve data and transfer matter across dimensional and space-time barriers. And they're concerned that adversarial programs will be using this, and they're going to have countermeasures to this. Man, this is like out of a science fiction novel. I love it. It's crazy. Richard Dolan talks about the breakaway civilization, as in this vast thing that exists with futuristic sci-fi technology that's really a civilization apart from the rest of us. And when you see stuff like this, it makes you think, Richard is right. Recovered AAV technology exists and is accessible only within an SAP construct. So you're trying to get this into an SAP, as they did with OSAP as well. It did not work with OSAP, but at least OSAP was a funded program that existed. The Wand says from the Kona Blue info drop, not U.A.P, but AAV, but the implication of said admission speaks volume. And AAV, recovered AAV, Advanced Aerospace Vehicle. So that's another acronym or a euphemism for UFO. That technology exists and is accessible only within an SAP construct. Yeah. So, and that's where you get back to the, quote from James Lukatsky is, they were aware of a UFO that they actually did over years gain access to, and he was with OSAP, and they were trying to get it into an SAP. And they didn't get it. They didn't get it. The wand also is having a little fun here. Having one of these tonight. Only fitting. Kona Big Wave. Love it. Love it. All right. And Patterns Tell Stories also talks about another interesting feature. Piloting craft with consciousness. Yeah. As an initial study, focus capabilities on all known hotspots, locations with repeated and frequent reports of activity, extend remote communication programs to communicate and retrieve data across dimensional space-time barrier, develop remote viewing and remote communication countermeasures. That is really interesting. So they're worried about psychic spies, and they are wanting to develop countermeasures for this. And that's something that I've heard before, that if you remote view Area 51, for example, there are countermeasures, supposedly, although people have done it successfully, theoretically. But are they seeing what they think they see, or are there countermeasures in place to make them see something that's not real? So that is something that it worries me with remote viewing, and is this consciousness warfare, where there are psychic spies that battle each other psychically, and it seems to be a thing. It's crazy. Conduct experiments to determine baseline parameters for physical transport across dimensional space-time barrier, as opposed to communication and data transfer only. Physical transport, guys, across dimensional and space-time barriers. This is apparently a thing, guys. This is a thing. They can transport people through dimensions and they in time. It's just nuts, guys. It's just nuts what they're talking about here. Deliverables, experimental results, and assessment reports will be produced on each separate activity. Results and reports will be maintained separate from other data reports. From Merrick, the Kona Blue documents corroborate comments Elizondo made to the New York Times regarding the storage of materials recovered from U.A.P. The intent of OSAP and KB Kona Blue was to receive from governmental or privatized holders/stewards and analyze such materials. And there we go. Under Mr. Bigelow's direction, the company and this is from the New York Times article, I'm sure. Very interesting. Very interesting. Oh, no, is that from Kona Blue? Is that from Kona Blue? Because he's got some screen grabs from Kona Blue here. Let's see. It'd be cool if they talked about Lou Elizondo being the director of ATIP in Kona Blue. That would really, that'd be great. That'd be great for Stephen Greenstreet. Yes. So does it mention Lou in coordination with Kona Blue, or in coordination with ATIP? Anyway, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Let's see. All right, getting back to... Okay, here's Joe Mergia. We shouldn't be surprised that the Kona Blue docs were made public because a month ago, Kirkpatrick, the lovely Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, told us, see below, it was coming. He also said it was a nothing burger proposed by the same OSAP believers we all know, the so-called circular reporting. And yeah, of course, Sean Kirkpatrick's whole thing is there's a cult of UFO believers that are pushing this disinformation and, brainwashing the public into thinking there are UFOs, which of course is silly because there's no such thing as UFOs, according to the lovely SK. Joe goes on to say he then claimed that Arrow had witnesses come in and claim Kona Blue was the program that houses U.A.P. crash retrievals, the reverse engineering program in non-human bodies. And Joe wrote about that here. If this was only declassified recently, how were most of the details included in Skinwalkers at the Pentagon? Read about that here. Yeah, and Skinwalkers at the Pentagon is a great read, guys. I highly encourage you to check it out if you have time. You get such wonderful tidbits, as there were so many skinwalkers in the Uintah Basin that they were able to track the migration patterns of the Skinwalkers. Of course, there's no follow-up information about that. What were the migration patterns of the Skinwalkers, George Knapp and James Lukaski and Colin Kelleher? They don't say. They don't give us any additional details. But there are some juicy nuggets in that book, guys. Juicy nuggets. All right, well, moving on. Dewan says, from the document, conduct experiments to determine baseline parameters for physical transport. That's just so fascinating. What does that mean? Am I reading too much into that? Conduct experiments to determine baseline parameters for physical transport across dimensional and space-time barriers. What does that mean, guys? Am I going overboard with my excitement for that? Because that's nuts, guys. That's nuts. Rennet, if I'm saying your name right, says, indeed, the plot thickens. Just declassify. This is an amazing read, and I have not yet read everything. Determine geographical locations within the U.S. where anomalous activities occurs on a regular basis. Expand on remote viewing and remote communications to communicate, retrieve data, and transport across dimensional time-space barriers. Study consciousness interactions with and control of technology. And that's something that we've been hearing a lot about. Mike Carrera talks about that. It's so important that the control group is going around abducting people who have psychic abilities, because that's who you need sometimes, apparently, to interface with this technology. Although many abductees or contactees are able to pilot the ships and stuff, so are they only abducting people that have these psychic abilities? Or do we all have them and they can bring them out? Do they have that technology? I don't know, but either way, psychic abilities seem to be a key component in a lot of this. Recovered AAV technology, records of advanced aerospace vehicle tracking by any agency. Okay. All right. Pattern Cell Story says, it sounds like Kona Blue's SAP status was legitimately approved and then someone stepped in to shut it down. And then he's referencing this section right here. The Kona Blue PSAP was approved prior to the issuance of any final formal documentation, such as a security classification guide, SOP, facility accreditation, AIS plan, or any other required documentation. No documentation exists to downgrade, reclassify, or determine other opposition or disposition. Okay, all right, interesting. So there we go. Brian, Massachusetts has a very optimistic or encouraging meme here. UFO Burnout, meet Kona Blue. And indeed, I mean, it's pretty exciting when you start talking, when you start getting into the crazy stuff. I mean, transporting people or objects across space-time barriers. What are they talking about? What are they talking about, guys? I want to know. I want to know what they know, why they brought that up, what technology does the control group have, what is going on? What the what, guys? What the what? The Kona Blue SAP approval documents are basically ATIP Slide 9 laid out as an actual program. Temporal translation is a particularly intriguing term. Yeah, that is. This research addresses the questions of what emergent technologies and applications are potentially harmful to U.S. vital and major interest, and 2, what vulnerabilities and opportunities does any new technologies present. Successful concept and principle validation provides strategic, scientific, and technical direction, focus and planning for technological exploitation and solutions, and the strategic planning for countermeasure and mitigation efforts throughout the Homeland Security enterprise. Specific methodologies used to assess available material, technologies, and observations may require nuanced approaches which will undoubtedly be of significant interest to foreign intelligence security services. 4 research centers, the data collection. Let's see, where's the temporal part? Alternative energy power source generation, temporal translation. There you go. So again, possibly transporting people or objects, not just data and information, through time. Mentioned a couple of times at least in Kona Blue, guys. So does the control group have time travel abilities? I mean, that seems to be what they're suggesting, right? They are researching this. There seems to be a thing. Time travel seems like it's baked into the technology of the beings. Their ships often seem to be able to come and go from our 3D and 4D space. And once you go beyond 4D, the time dimension, you go outside of time. And you can come back in anywhere you want along our time stream, and possibly alternate time streams as well. So that seems to be a thing that the beings may be capable of, being other dimensional as some of them seem to be. And it seems like the control group is able to get some of that to work, maybe, which is very alarming, very disturbing. I don't know if these are the guys that we want to have that technology. Merrick VR, the documents released today make one thing clear: two successive Democratic Senate Majority Leaders, Schumer and Reid, believe exotic U.A.P. materials have been recovered. Lieberman, Stevens, who had a World War II Foo Fighter sighting, and ex-astronaut John Glenn assisted along the way. There you go. John Glenn's name is mentioned. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Pattern Still Story says the words examine and research unusual and unique biological specimens sure sounds like the program wanted access to non-human biologics. Alien bodies. Yep, and there we go. Create the internal infrastructure, organization, and personnel, as well as contract research experts to handle, examine, and research unusual and unique biological specimens at the forensic, anatomic, physiological, biochemical, and genetic levels. Such data also will be systemized and integrated. Infrastructure will conform to HIPAA and human subjects regulations as they pertain to the above medical center objectives. Well, that's good. I guess they're conforming to HIPAA, something. Greenwald, Green Street, and West and the Monkey Debunkers, I love that U.A.P. Jedi, are being pushed back into a hole. The fake news and lies they spread now debunked. And it goes back to what Merrick was saying about A-Tip and Lou Elizondo. That is really, really cool. Is Lou actually mentioned in that? Because when I was looking through the A-Tip stuff, I didn't see his name, but I by no means have read it all. So if you've seen Lou's name in there, let me know. Because that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Yeah. Let's see. In redacted media says Kona Blue docs confirm the government is heavily invested in the dimensional and time travel hypothesis. Yeah, that's what it looks like, guys. That's what it looks like. And this was just a proposed program. Imagine what the actual programs have. Imagine just how deep does that rabbit hole go? What does the control group have access to? Mike Herrera and others have talked about them having their own UFOs. Mike said they were flying around in space so much the operators of the craft were getting bored. They seem to have fantastic technologies, guys. It's very disturbing to me, though, if they can do time travel, because how can you fight that? And this is the cover-up. They've done some dark, shady stuff too. By what we can see. I don't know if they're the guys that we want to have time travel abilities or other dimensional abilities. I guess you could say there do seem to be some pro-disclosure people within that group, and that's how Mike was able to find out about some of this stuff, and others as well. So I think that's encouraging. So that's something, I guess. That's something, guys. But either way, amazing stuff that is coming out of these Kona Blue files. So let me know what you think about that. What have you found? Have you done a deep dive into Kona Blue yet? Have you discovered anything juicy? If you have, please let us know in the comments below. But yeah, let me know what you think about it all. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Sure to appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, links below. Love to see you guys there. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in an even bigger way, consider grabbing a coffee mug or a t-shirt in the merch store below, or by becoming a channel member, because channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Also, channel members frequently get to see videos hours ahead of everybody else. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.